I'm Zach Martin on the Big Fat American Radio Network with one of my best friends, Mark Bego, who is an amazing author. You should make sure that your library has a few or all of Mark Bego's books. Mark, how many books have you written already?
Number 65 just came out. Number 66 will be out in January, and I'm working on number 67.
Wow, you're already thinking about your first one, your second 100 books. Right?
Exactly. What do I do when I break 100 here?
Well, now, your first book was about, let me think if I can remember this, the Mark Bego story. The first book was about Liberace?
Barry Manilow.
Barry Manilow.
I can see the association.
Well,
yes.
I know you did a book about Liberace.
I didn't, but I reported on him in Modern Screen magazine when I was the editor-in-chief back then.
I knew there was some connection to Liberace. See, there's the bong resin in my brains activating certain cells. Yes, your first book was on Barry Manilow, and from what I remember, you're working at a label at the time, right? Something like that?
Actually, at that time, I was, before that, I was working at Grosset and Dunlap Publishers, and they ended up buying my first two books, which were Barry Manilow and The Captain and Tennille.
Right.
They came out simultaneously. Then I was working for CBS Records in the early 80s. I was working for Columbia Record Club. Remember all those?
Yes.
Get for 12, you can get 12 albums for 3 cents, and then we'll own you for the next 2 years.
Well, the way to get around that was to use somebody else's address and name. You'd wait for the post office guy to show up with the records. You'd swipe them, and they'd get stuck with the bill.
It's amazing. I mean, people used to do that all the time. But someone had to write those record reviews for the catalog, and that was me back then.
Oh, see, that's a fun job. But you called it right with Barry Manilow. You saw the big sensation he was going to be before everybody else.
Yeah, there was a startup publication that lasted 3 issues. Back in 1975, it was called 51 News Magazine, and their aim was to become the new Village Voice, which it never ended up happening. They didn't end up making money. They ended up never paying me. But,
isn't that the way it goes?
Yeah, welcome to startup publications. But the nice thing was I got to interview, as you mentioned or precluded, an unknown pianist who was on the up-and-coming list, and it ended up Barry Manilow. So that ended up my first book. So 51 News Magazine definitely gave me that access.
Well, you definitely have written a lot of great stories about a lot of great people. And before we talk about Supreme Glamour and Mary Wilson, we talked about the Bohemian Rhapsody movie. I don't know. I think that you said you cried as well as I did. I mean, I started to cry at the end. I don't even know why.
As soon as the credits came up, I went, when can I figure out a time to see this again? Because I want to see it again immediately. I missed some things.
Well,
there was so much going on and so many details. It was a great movie, just great.
And you know something? It now, much like the character that George C. Scott played as Patton, now when I think of Queen, I think of the characters in that movie. So it doesn't matter what the old Queen even looked like or sounded like. My brain is automatically, that's Queen. See? That's
what happens, too, when we go see these biographical movies that are really convincing and really well done. Our imagination is of the actors instead of the real people sometimes.
Well, what did you think of Rocket Man?
Well, it's a totally different movie.
Yeah.
I liked it a lot. I didn't like it the same way that I liked Bohemian Rhapsody. Bohemian Rhapsody was more of a story that unfolded using the music either in a concert setting, in a songwriting setting, or in a studio setting. But with Rocket Man, I had seen that right around the time I went to see the Cher show on Broadway, and it has more similarities to the Cher show on Broadway than it does to Bohemian Rhapsody, in that they took Elton's catalog of music and decided to utilize them all over the movie, not in chronological order, as a Broadway musical. So when you see 12-year-old Elton John playing piano in a pub and suddenly bursting into Saturday Night's All Right for Fighting, you know that they're not following the details.
Yeah, that was I thought that was kind of stupid myself, but also I was on a flight to Los Angeles heading towards LAX from New York City, and it was one of the choices. I began to watch it, and I thought, you know something? I don't think this is like exactly G-rated, and I don't ever want to be on a flight where I
You're
might be
squirming.
Yeah, well, there are kids around, and I'm really particular about that. I always want it when I'm out in public, really to put out a good example. You know what I'm saying? And although I'm intrigued about the Rocket Man story, I like G-rated stuff. I just put it that way. That's how I am. I just want to see G-rated.
Right.
My wife, she loved it, and we all know that there were points in that movie it went, in my opinion, a little bit too far, but it seemed to resonate with her. Having said that, here's my takeaway. Bohemian Rhapsody, you can watch it on any flight with any audience. Elton John is more of an adult type of movie that you really have to be careful who's watching it with you.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. I mean, They unflinchingly showed sex and drugs, which happened in the Queen movie, but they didn't put it right in your face.
I don't need it. It's sort of like when we talk, well, let's shift to the genre to war movies, all right? Lately, let's just say in the past 10 years, they really show you what the gore is like. Saving Private Ryan is an example.
Right.
I can remember watching John Wayne movies, understanding the violence of it all. I did not need to see that. I got the point.
Exactly.
And now you watch these new movies, two things happen. You become desensitized, or the result is it trips some sort of PDST, whatever it's called.
Exactly. It's like when they remake movies, they find that they have to put so much gore and stage blood in them that they've lost the story. A certain audience is gone from that.
Yeah, and backing up a little bit, if you made Bohemian Rhapsody all about Freddie Mercury's sexual orientation and what he did to, quote unquote, get AIDS, then you kind of rob from the actual persona of the person. In other words, that's not who he is. Who he is this amazing talent who got his start much like in that group Smile, and they slugged it out, and they had their own sound, and they really worked hard, and there's the friendships, and even the girl that he wanted to marry. That, to me, made that movie just more real as opposed to, what it could have been. So kudos to the people that put that movie together. I won't refrain. I should say I will refrain from commenting on Rocket Man, other than you got to be careful of the people around you when you watch it, especially on an international or national flight. How's that?
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to Super Glamour and Mary Wilson.
Glamour.
What am I saying? Super? I don't know.
It's good. It's good.
Super Glamour.
I got the association.
Oh, okay. Supreme Glamour and Mary Wilson. What's been the reaction to this book?
Amazing. Just amazing. Wednesday of last week, I was with Mary in Los Angeles at the Grove autographing books at Barnes & Noble. And people were buying stacks of them. They were buying multiple copies as Christmas gifts, as, presents for their loved ones or their mother or their parents or anyone who this resonates with. So it was really gratifying to hear them say how much they enjoyed the book and how gorgeous it is. I have to say the publisher just did a lavish job with all the color plates in it, the beautiful photography of all the Supremes gowns, the Supremes historic photos. Just a beautiful book. It really is the ultimate coffee table book, I think.
I don't think I've ever heard you describe any of your previous books like that, so I'm really excited about this.
It's so highly visual, Zach. It really, really is. They did a gorgeous job, just a gorgeous job.
And I understand you're going to be doing some in-stores around Thanksgiving. Where are those going to take place?
Well, we're talking about them. A couple years ago, 2 years ago, when I had my cookbook, Eat Like a Rock Star.
Oh, great book.
Oh, thank you.
I got it right here, as a matter of fact.
Very good. I know you're a foodie, so I gave it to the perfect person, definitely.
Yes,
definitely.
You definitely did.
I did a signing up in Barnes & Noble of Nyack store, one in Hackensack. There's talk about one on Long Island, maybe one in Manhattan. We're still locking those in.
You have to go to Bookends in Ridgewood.
Okay.
Yeah. I went there. I actually stopped in one day. Now, I have friends of mine who play professional sports, and they've invited me. And I got a little peeved because I'm not going to mention the linebacker's name, Harry. I actually had to spend $27 just to see my friend. I'm like, next time I'm not doing that. So one day I'm driving there, and I noticed that Jason I sound like a fangirl. I noticed that Jason Priestley is there. And I'm with my wife, Emily, and Sophie's in the backseat. I'm like, oh, my gosh, we got to stop over there. Why? Jason Priestley from 90210. I got to go meet Jason. So I'm the only guy online, right? I buy the book, which is I normally will not do that kind of thing. Why should I buy it, right? And I get online, and then he comes to meet me. First of all, I'm so excited to just see this guy for whatever reason. I think because he's a race car driver too.
Ah, okay.
So that's where I made the connection with him. Oh my God, the guy's a race car driver, that's my hero. Yeah. And we take a picture. And these people, I don't know if you've seen BH 90210, the reboot. I really like it.
I haven't seen an episode yet.
You
I'm
really
glad
have
you
to
like
check
it
it out.
now. I'll check it out.
Well, you can go on their the Fox website, and you can watch the episodes. You don't have to wait up all night and watch the stuff. Anyway, he's in my age group. He's not very much younger than I am. So there I am, and I go, this is your Peter Griffin moment, because I'm the only guy there. We take a picture. It looks like we're both bombed out of our, like we're hanging out at a bar. It's one of my favorite photos. So, yes, bookends, you always get a nice turnout. People really like to show up, and I think with this book, Supreme Glamour and Mary Wilson, it's going to be a home run for you. So I'm just going to throw that out there.
Oh,
now,
thank you.
You talked about your L.A. Turnout, but let's go a little bit more into the L.A. How long ago was it? And what was the weather like?
I just got back on Thursday. It
Okay.
was very hot out there and
Yeah.
kind of sticky.
Oh.
And a lot of people in L.A., and I understand the history of this, don't have air conditioning.
Yeah, you know, the monorail at Disneyland has no air conditioning.
Yeah.
I'm thinking to myself, what kind of engineering is this, Walt Disney?
Well, I remember the New York subway when it didn't have it, believe me.
Yeah, forget I'm not going
You
on
do
that
not
thing.
wear a silk shirt on the subway in July.
Funny you should mention that. I have a friend over here. He was just walking in our weather today and shows up at the station, the shirt soaked through like he ran a marathon. It's I think we got to make a book out of this guy. His name is Kieran Kelly. Anyway, back to we're talking about L.A. What's the difference between, in your mind, the L.A. scene and the New York scene?
Well, the New York scene, everything is more accessible because you can get around so easily. Hi, let's get together. I'm on 42nd Street. Let's go down to the Village. Okay, no problem. In L.A., it's like, well, wait a minute. Let me plan this out for 3 days. Let me see. The traffic's going to be bad on Beverly. Let me see.
Right.
It's insane. I stay with a friend of mine in Santa Monica, and to get into Beverly Hills and Hollywood, you really have to negotiate this because it can take you hours to go 10 miles.
Well, yeah, you take 465 or 10 or whatever it might be, or 5, the Santa Monica Freeway, I guess it's called. And, yeah, at 9 o'clock at night on a Friday, it's slammed. Like, it's bumper to bumper.
Ridiculous. If you want to do anything after 3 o'clock on a Friday afternoon in Los Angeles, you have to have plotted it out hours ago.
If you have a 3 o'clock flight on Saturday, leave at 9 a.m.
Exactly.
Yeah, I get
Camp
you.
out in the parking lot.
That's exactly it, yeah. I do love Santa Monica. I think that's amazing. I don't know if you ever gone out to the end of the pier and gone on the Ferris wheel to take
I've
pictures.
always wanted to do that, and I'm never with the right people.
Well,
I'm with someone like who wants to do the roller coaster. Well, okay, if you'll go on the Ferris wheel with me, I'll do the roller coaster, and no one will ever do it.
Well, they're you know something, that's a shame because the view from the Ferris wheel is amazing as you look at the Pacific, and you go up there and it's a big and I think you go 5 times around for $10 a person, so it's a pretty good ride. What's the roller coaster? It takes, 30 seconds?
Exactly.
Yeah, this is a nice ride. I've always loved Santa Monica. What really makes me love Santa Monica even more are some of those kitschy 70s shows that I would watch.
Oh,
Whether
yeah.
it's Rockford Files or Charlie's Angels, they're always at Santa Monica. I'm like, I know that place.
There's so much filming going on there.
There really is,
It's
yeah.
a great backdrop. It really is. That area, and which bleeds right into Malibu, which is so fabulous.
I haven't gotten a chance to get up in Malibu, but one of these days I will. Now, L.A.'s got its own thing and New York's got its own thing, but one thing they both have in common are great books written by Mark Bego.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Now,
If you go to Malibu, though, go to the Real Inn, R-E-E-L, Inn, for seafood. Oh, my God, so great.
Oh.
Sit outside and picnic table.
Let me tell you something. I went to, first off, I went to Universal Hollywood, and I went to the Simpsons area, and I had a Krusty Burger and a Duff beer and some Buzz Cola and a donut earlier in the day. It was like a donut. It was big enough for a family of 4. So we ate that. We went on the rides, walking around, and then for dinner we went to the walk, the Universal City Walk,
Mm-hmm.
and we decided to go into Bubba Gump's. And I really didn't want to go to Bubba Guns, but because the lady outside saw us and we went in there, I'm like, it'd be kind of rude to scoot out and go somewhere else. So I was a little disappointed, but as I'm sitting there, and this only happens in California because there was a 3.0 in Riverside earlier in the day. I don't know what happened, but there was this like big, gigantic cast iron Harley Davidson motorcycle, a 1 in 64 size,
right?
Big, but not gigantic, not a full size motorcycle. Falls off the shelf and gouges out my the side of my shoulder.
Jeez.
Yeah, so I'm thinking, they go, we can call. Now, you're going to love this. This is totally me. We can call the paramedics. And I'm thinking, Squad 51? Oh, yeah. And then I was like, no. Yeah, exactly. No need. And they actually picked up the check, and I left $8 tip because, it's not the waitress's fault. But for a split second, that's where Engine 51, Squad 51, I think Ladder 51 is located, as opposed to where their real station is, just so everybody knows it's listening to Mark Bego and Zach Martin. It's Engine 127 or Station 127 in Carson City, California. You got to go to Pink's, but having
I love Pink's.
Yeah, Pink's is great.
I love Pink's. I love a good hot dog.
Me too. And I avoided In-N-Out Burger, not because it's bad burgers. They're really good burgers, but since I went to Krusty Burger, I was all burgered out by that time.
You were burgered to death.
Yeah, I was burgered to death. You go to Disneyland, you get burgered to death. Oh, and also I tried the new Star Wars, the Maltese Falcon, I guess. No, that's a book. What is the Falcon in Star Wars? That thing.
Oh,
yeah,
God.
it's a spaceship. Anyway, that was a lot of fun. Now, we talked about Rocket Man. We talked about Bohemian Rhapsody. Your next release, I think, would be, as you said, 65 or 66. It would be Rocket Man?
Rocket Man.
Okay. So tell us what you got coming out with Elton John, Rocket Man. What is this book really going to focus in on?
Well, it's going to focus on everything Elton, absolutely everything but the kitchen sink. So it's got sex, it's got drugs, it's got rock and roll, it's got his entire history. One of the things about it I wanted to say to you, because this will resonate with you, I'm sure. I love Elton's history and how in the 60s especially, he was the background piano player, like the house band piano player, for a lot of American acts, including Patti LaBelle and the Bluebells, and anyone who would visit clubs where they needed a pickup band. And when he decided to change his name from Reginald Dwight to Elton John, he took the names of two of his bandmates.
Right, it had nothing to do with John Lennon.
That bugged the hell out of me about the movie. That was the one thing that bugged the hell out of me.
I don't know how Elton John let that go by. I mean, he would have had...
because he was one of the producers.
Yeah.
And he was one of the biggest John Baldry supporters ever. To change that to Elton John, I thought, or to John Lennon, for Elton getting his name from his last name, I thought that was terrible, that they dissed Long John Baldry. Don't try to lay no boogie woogie on the king of rock and roll.
Now, why do you think he did that?
I have no idea. I think that he was talked into it because people will say, well, the American audience doesn't realize who Long John Baldry is. I did.
Well, the rest of the world does think we're a bunch of idiots, but feck them anyway.
Get those two. If you're out there listening and you wonder who Long John Baldry is, get those two albums that Elton John produced half and Rod Stewart produced the other half.
And the one thing about Elton John that you can't dismiss are two people, Bernie Taupin, who would write the lyrics, and somehow Elton John would come up with the melody, which I still find fascinating. How do you do
amazing.
that, right? How do you know to go from ballad or to a rocker, right? That's one thing. But be that as it may, the Elton John story would not be complete, or should I say no book would be complete, without the legendary Scott Muni included in that, because it was Scott that embraced him, that allowed him, the radio access. And, of course, there's 11-17-70, which you hear Dave Herman from WABC FM. But I think that Scott Muni opened his arms to Elton, and he would visit there on a regular basis. And Scott would do all kinds of things. Like one time he knew that Elton John was going to visit at 102.7 WNEW in New York. So he sends his producer, it might have been Earl at the time, down to the village to get the ugliest purple dress.
Yeah.
So when Elton John arrives, there Scott Muni is in drag. I mean, you just... Scott Muni in drag. It's like Fred Flintstone wearing lipstick. I mean, that's just funny to me. So hopefully, there's a little homage to the great Scott Muni.
Oh, absolutely.
Also,
absolutely.
Since I'm looking at this, and let me just go over a few. We're with Mark Bego. We're going to tell you how to get his books in just a second. I've had the bourbon meatballs.
Oh.
I've had the roasted lamb shoulder. I've had the Hungarian goulash.
Oh, that's a good one.
I've done the Mongolian beef. I even tried the tuna bake, which, I'm not a big tuna eater, but I really liked it. And then, of course, the summer linguine. The only problem, when was the last time we talked?
Probably 2 or 3 months ago.
Okay. Before or after I went to Venice?
It would have been the beginning of June.
So, it was after I went to Venice. Well, I just wanted to say that your Italian dishes are on par excellence.
Oh, thank you.
With what I had while I was in Venice, Italy. And that is just, when you think about that, what a thing to say, right?
Wow, I'm blown away. One of them was from Lou Christie, Mr. Lightning Strikes.
Yes,
himself.
Lightning Strikes.
It's a fabulous pasta.
And it's really good? Bees and honey.
Oh,
okay?
Yes.
So you get Mark Bego, Eat Like a Rock Star. You have Rocket Man coming out, the story about Elton John. What I would like to know is, are there more recipes coming out, like Eat Like a Rock Star, including Zach Martin, for part 2?
Well, there is room for it. I'm gathering recipes as we speak. In fact, I was at Dancing with the Stars 2 weeks ago with Mary Wilson of the Supremes, which we'll get into in a sec. And there in the green room, I'm led to the green room. In the green room is Bubba Knight, Gladys Knight's brother, one of the Pips. And I was like, Bubba, I've got you alone for 5 minutes. Do you happen to cook? Next thing I know, he reels out a recipe in great detail. It's going in volume 2, and it's a good one.
Well, that's fantastic. Did you ever, I don't know if I saw this, I make a mean bagel pizza.
All
right.
I've always loved bagels. I've always loved pizza.
Okay, so, mine is a very simple dish. My bagel pizza is something that a person with absolutely no cooking skills cooking skills, or speaking skills could
for that matter.
Yeah, right. It would actually be something easy. Anybody can make this, and we'll throw it in there. But what we'll do is we'll name specific kind of sauces that I suggest, as well as the specific type of mozzarella cheese.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be like Randy Marsh in Cream Fresh. Remember that? South Park?
Yes.
Because, Sharon, why? Oh, that's why. Just so you know, Sophie thinks I'm Randy Marsh. Yeah. She goes, you're a lot like Randy there, Dad. Okay. Let's go back to the book that we want to talk about today, a little bit more about Supreme Glamour and Mary Wilson. It's available right now. It's on Amazon.
On Barnes & Noble as well. Let's give
Barnes
them their
& Noble,
credit.
all right. And you have a website, don't you?
I do. Mark Bego, www.markbego.com.
Let me tell you. We've dropped the www. It's taken for granted that it is. What else would it be? ZZZ?
Well, it's an older audience. It's my age, which is over 30.
Over 30, under 40. What? Yeah. Don't ever tell anybody your age.
Over 30. That's,
Okay.
31 is a good age.
You know what? While I have you on the phone on this interview, would you mind writing my resume, my next? Because I'm really having a hard time picking up work. I need a good resume writer. So we got a lot of stuff that we covered, and it's always great talking to you. So here's what I think we should do. We should at least on a monthly basis touch base.
I like
so that you can give us an update what's going on. Tell us, any famous people that picked up your book. Like, did the Queen of England read any of your stuff? Or maybe
now that's what
Prince
we need.
Charles?
Is like a picture of the Queen of England with the book. I think that's fitting.
Yeah, we can Photoshop it.
Her mother's picture is in it.
Prince Philip on the
Queen
toilet.
Mother is in the book.
Really?
The picture of the Supremes meeting the royal family is in the book.
See, that was out of nowhere. I just made it up, and there you go.
You're like psychically channeling it.
You already got it covered. Wow. That's what makes you great, Mark Bego.
Thank you.
Right.
I try and anticipate what people want and give it to them.
All right. Well, you
we'll
always
leave it
do.
at that.
Listen, you never disappoint. You're such a great and dear friend. It's always a pleasure to talk to.
Thank you. It's always wonderful talking to you.
I'm very happy for you. I think it's very exciting every time you write a new book. I'm really proud of all the work you've done over your entire career. Really.
I'm a music fan. That's where it all started. I'm a total music junkie.
You write about your passion, music and food, and a few other things that we won't mention.
Yeah.
But, go to markbego.com and pick up a copy today.